Hello and welcome back to our I Know Nothing About Property podcast. And we are on episode 9. Episode 9. Can you believe it, Harry?
Right, every single time we do this, every single time people probably switch off now when they hear this. Every single time we jump on the podcast and we both go, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it because we've said it 8 times already.
We've
so
said
now
it
I do
8 times
believe
already,
it.
and we're going to be saying it over and over again. I think you've probably picked it up. And I know people who have been doing podcasts for a lot longer than us are thinking, oh, come on, you're only on episode 9 for crying out loud. But hey, it's episode 9 and we're glad it's still going. And today we're going to be talking about serviced accommodation, the return. And it sounds like a sequel to a crazy movie, doesn't it? Serviced accommodation, the return. Is it fact or factual? Fact or fiction? I don't know why I struggle to say the word fiction.
Also, can if anyone likes the name, can you leave just appreciation for Muzzy in the comments, because this name he's been so excited about calling it this, coming up with this name. He thinks it's absolutely amazing. So
I think it's quality. I mean, I can't say it, but it's quality.
Leave some appreciation in the comments for Muzzy on the fact of what he's called this episode.
Serviced accommodation, the return, fact or fiction. Boom. Right. So I mean, I think it's a valid conversation to have right now, especially with what's going on at the moment. So for anyone who's in property, when it comes to the strategies that we've been discussing, whether you rent to service accommodation or you buy to service accommodation, the past year has been tough for anyone who's running service accommodation. And the thought or the hope that service accommodation is going to start returning to its best is something that is quite interesting, and it's quite intriguing. It's quite exciting. As one of the SA operators myself, I'm quite excited by the thought of it. So I thought we'll just have a chat about it today and see if is this actually true, or are people just ranting on and finding new topics to discuss. Is it really true? So that's what we're going to get into today. So what are your thoughts, Harry?
I mean, I think it definitely is something that needs to be discussed, because I keep on hearing, mixed opinions. Most of them are saying that, yeah, we are expecting a boom. But a lot of them are varying with the size of the boom. So for me, what mostly I've been hearing is that people are saying, yes, it is going to increase because of blah, 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 and whatever their reasons may be. However, I don't think it will increase that much, or however, I think it will absolutely explode. I think the different viewpoints are coming from different people. A lot of the viewpoints who were saying it's going to explode have come from people who witnessed summer last year, when it went crazy for summer last year. Whereas the people who are saying, yeah, I think it will explode, but not that much, has been more people who are discussing it, who've been in the SA game a lot longer. So I think there's a lot of different opinions floating about.
Yeah. And I suppose trying to predict what's going to happen or trying to make sense of how things are going to work is also dependent on your experience. So people have different opinions based on what they have experienced before. However, it begs the question, doesn't it, Harry, that does it matter what experience you've had in service accommodation if something like COVID is at play? No one's ever experienced it. So
yeah,
does it actually matter what you have experienced if COVID is something brand new?
I think it does. And I'm not going to leave it there, but I'm just going to put that point in there. I think it does. And the reason I think it does is because people who have been in SA a long time, in my opinion, the majority of them are a lot more reliant on that income. Okay, so they're either full time or they're part time. But when I say been in the game a long time, I mean like 2, 3, 4 years, maybe probably about a year and a half before COVID hit. So they have become really reliant on that income. and it's no longer a side hobby for them or side hustle because they've been doing it so long. Even if they have a job on the side as well, they have been in the game for a long time. So because of that, I feel they are a lot more likely to adapt and to keep going compared to someone who's just picked it up before COVID. Um, thinks right now we're buggered, we can't do anything. COVID's hit, and are more likely to drop their units. So I think with the experience, you become more reliable on it, more reliant on it.
Mhm.
So you will be more reluctant to letting your units go.
That is true. That is true. Um, and in terms of predicting what's actually going to happen going forward, um, there's a few facts that have kind of been thrown in, or we say facts, it's kind of like theories that have been thrown in that would make sense to why this is actually seen as a potential boom. And I
Yeah,
mean, even anyone who's not in SA, if we know that just last week it was announced that the lockdown restrictions are going to start being taken slowly off in different phases,
yeah,
and we're looking at the world going back to some sort of normal at some point mid-June time.
yeah,
So with that happening, a lot of people already know that we've been locked down for pretty much a year, and everyone is just cannot wait to get out.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
based on
mean,
that theory, you would think that these properties are going to be taken, won't you?
yeah, yeah. I mean, the people have been wanting to get out and about for a long time. People have been wanting to go on holidays, but one of the big issues that is coming up now is that it's going to be so expensive to travel abroad.
Mm,
So there's it's not just the fact that you may have to isolate when you come back from holiday, and you may have to do all these other certain things. Everyone is going to be want to go in abroad. So, and the airlines and the big hotels have been out of business for so long that are going to charge a premium, and they're going to charge loads. So it's not the fact that I think it's more the fact as well that people aren't going to be able to go abroad, but they're still going to want to get other houses.
mhm.
So it's going to be massive for SA operators and tourist destinations, in my opinion, that way as well.
Yeah, I think that is one of the. I would actually class that as a bit of a fact, because as soon as the doors are open, people are going to walk out.
Yeah,
Essentially, that's the case, isn't it? So,
yeah,
regardless of where your service accommodation is, if wherever you are there's civilization, people are going to want to start traveling, and chances are they will be taking on your units. I think the other point as well, you've already touched on the level of experience on um, for SA operators, those that were kind of sort of like dipping their foot in the water really last year would have let go of their units, wouldn't they? Because it just wasn't working. But for those that are reliant on that income, either full time or part time, they're fully reliant on it and they've invested quite a lot of time and money, would have gone through it and found a way to actually keep going. And for that reason, um, a lot of properties were handed back. No, a lot of properties were handed back. And for that bad experience, so Joe, who would have started service accommodation last year during the COVID season, would have handed back all of the properties that they had, whether it's one, two, or three. And then what the ripple effect of that is the amount of landlords who would have been upset by that situation because the properties are just being handed back. The agents that would have been upset by that situation, properties handed back. 2 weeks ago, you did a rent to rent challenge and you're struggling to get properties through agents because one of the reasons was corporate lets, landlords don't want them anymore. They know about them now, but they don't want them because of the experience.
yeah,
That means whoever actually still had properties from last year has got less competition. That's another one.
yeah. And I also think that we've missed a massive, massive wave of new SA operators who would have started last year.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a growing industry, but because of everything that's been going on, there was a lot more people who didn't get into the industry because it's seen now SA doesn't work in this time.
Mhm.
Um, I've also got another major point for why people are saying it's going to be a boom. So I've got the numbers here. So with the UK roadmap, from the 12th of April, people will be allowed to travel and stay in domestic self-contained accommodation. So that has to be service accommodation units. And also on the 12th of April, outdoor hospitality and quite a lot of other things are opening up, which means people are going to be allowed to travel if they stay in a self-contained unit, and they're going to be allowed to drink outdoors, which is great. However, the hotels aren't open. So if people want to travel that early, they're going to have to use service accommodation. So we have until the 17th of May, so nearly, what is that, a month? Just a little bit over a month of a window
It says
where
17th of April.
12th of April to 17th of May.
Okay.
So we've got a little over a month of
Mhm.
us, of SA operators being active and being able to accommodate tourists when hotels can't. Now,
Yeah.
in that time, it's going to allow SA operators to, one, build a lot of rapport with tourists because they're allowed to collect a lot more names, a lot more emails, do a lot more direct marketing that way. And I think it could be um, an opportunity for a lot of SA operators to kind of show their face and put their stamp on what their service is like and how they're different to hotels, because people aren't going to have the option. On top of that as well, when hotels do open, contractors aren't going to be able to pay for accommodation because it's going to be so expensive for hotels that contractors aren't going to be able to afford it. So they'll have to look for SA units, and they'll have to be going back to when it wasn't just one contractor per room. It was 6 contractors in a 2-bed with 2 on a sofa bed, 2 and 2 each in the rooms.
Yeah.
They'll probably have to go back to that because they're just not going to be able to afford it.
Correct. And that's a really brilliant point there, because I would say probably around about January last year, before we knew anything about this COVID situation, we used to discuss about stats on how, as it stood at the time, in terms of the share of the market between hotels and service accommodation units, it was, I remember saying it was 72% towards hotels, and you had just the 28% towards service accommodation units. And the biggest factor was the fact that people don't actually know that that service accommodation units are actually available. It's almost instinctual because of the level of marketing that companies like Travelodge and Premier Inn would have. Instinctual that if you wanted to go to a certain place that's far away from home, you just type in Travelodge, you just type in Premier Inn. Now, for this period, you're saying now from April 12th to May the 17th, the market is now 100% open to service accommodation units.
Yeah.
And if from last year it was down to the fact that people didn't know about it, now they're being exposed to it. And if you actually have a taste of a service accommodation unit and try to compare it to a hotel, there's less likely chance you want to go back to a hotel.
Yeah, especially in our stays. I mean, the level of quality those guys offer is amazing.
Levels. That is levels. I reckon, yeah, I reckon you're gonna drop a link at the bottom to show what levels they're at.
Of course, mate. Of course, I'll do that. But I mean, in my opinion, I think the way it, depending on how people go about it, depending on what you want your results to be and how you want your business to move and how you want your business to grow, depends on what you should be doing. Again, I'm no expert on SA at all, my muzzy. I'm literally at the beginning. But from what I'm looking at it, the way I'm looking at it now is I'm thinking we personally have had trouble with people, tourists and partiers, people going to parties and stuff like that. They are not the type of people we want. We want contractors long term.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for us, it may be better to take a hit on some of the prices and not charge extremely high rates, charge lower rates than hotels and whatnot, but allow us to get contractors in and build rapport with them over a certain amount of time to then bring them on for the next few years every time they're working in Coventry,
Mhm.
or whatever your area is.
It's always the case, isn't it? If you're actually competing with someone else, i.e., service accommodation units competing with hotels, they have to stand out in some way. Okay, whether it's price or it's the quality or something that would bring someone out of a hotel to come to a service accommodation unit. And
Yeah,
one of the ways is drop the price or actually give it the same price as a hotel and then offer the whole house. You've got a kitchen, you've got all this. Now that when they have a taste of it and the demand increases, that's then enough justification for your SA operator to increase the prices back up to where it was that you needed to be to make the profit. So I think it would actually make sense for that. The next thing really is, what do you think the change of weather is going to do to the business as well?
again, I think it completely depends on what sort of avatar or who you're marketing, who you're directing your end product, your unit at, because and your location, massively location. I mean, down by me in South Wales, Tenby, it's booked. You just can't find a place, and I know the prices weren't cheap. You're talking, and sometimes a couple of £100 a night,
Mhm.
and that is a tourist destination. It's beautiful down there, and the reason it is because everyone wants to go there when the sun comes out. However, if you were to have an essay in somewhere, I don't know, somewhere like Grimsby, it's more of a contractor area.
Mhm.
The weather, I don't think, will affect you that much. Saying that, stuff like gardens, um, and little perks like that, I think then the weather has a big play with that. But I don't. I think it really depends on who you're targeting. If you're targeting tourists and people on vacations, then yeah, I think it'll have a massive effect. If you're looking for contractors and long-term bookings, I personally don't see it having that big of an effect.
Mhm. No, that's a valid point to make there. It's interesting. I see it a bit different when it comes to weather. There's something about the sun coming out that changes people's attitude, that changes people's feelings, so to speak. It kind of raises the spirit. So the combination of the lockdown restrictions going out slowly and the sun starting to come out, usually as soon as the sun comes out, everybody wants to come out. Like literally everybody just wants to come out. Now that's mostly going to be on on the tourist side of things. However, when it comes to contractors, there's certain jobs that are also weather dependent, so that you actually want to do mostly during the summer. The landscaping, doing off gardens, like you've mentioned, and there's people that actually travel around the country just doing people's gardens. Things like window cleaning and stuff like that. You tend to see dirt on your window in the summer, not so much any other weather.
Yeah,
And as soon as that happens, you've got contractors that go up and down the country doing that. Now, just the sun coming out lifts people's spirits to want to come out. So mostly on the tourist side. But I also think on the contractor side, the weather change is going to play a part because there's going to be more people. Um, I mean, we've had key workers who are allowed to work during the lockdown period. However, there's still workers that could have worked and they haven't been allowed because the work that they do is not seen as key or important. Those people with the lockdown restrictions coming down, they're going to want to catch up on the work that they hadn't been doing. And that's going to increase it on the contractor side together with the tourist side. And I think the weather change as well, dependent on what contractors we're looking at, is going to actually make a bit of a difference.
yeah,
So, I mean, the next thing to look at now, since you've just recently taken on an SA unit, someone telling you now that there's going to be a boom, it's fun, it's good to know, and this kind of gives you that bit of hope that you're going to be doing something. But have you actually seen any evidence?
yeah. But we have.
Mhm.
We're starting to see it. I believe we are starting to see it. I get what you mean with the evidence, but I think we are starting to see it now.
Mhm.
Um, we, but yeah, I mean, it does depend on a lot of things, doesn't it? I think when people are saying there's going to be an essay boom, as you
Mhm.
said, evidence-wise, you've got to look at. lots of factors, not just one.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
if you've got a property at the edge of, in a, I don't know, on a little island outside of Wales, but you can't get to, it's probably not going to affect you, is it? So
Absolutely, yeah. So I suppose the only evidence that as an SA operator that you would be looking for is, are you seeing any bookings, I guess? Like,
yeah,
are you actually seeing the bookings? And we have, haven't we?
yeah, yeah.
Like, as of, what was it? Was it Monday
Mate,
last week?
mate, I think it was later than that. It was Wednesday we
Yeah.
sorted it all out.
It's
Wednesday, and it's just gone mental over the last few
it's
days.
just been booking after booking after booking, like our phones just pinging with new inquiries, confirmed bookings, and all that. And I mean, for an SA operator, that, from my point of view, is the evidence that you're looking for. And
15 bookings it was, mate.
15,
15 bookings in what? Probably 5 days.
that was about 5 days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And for anyone who's running SA, 5 bookings a day, I mean,
No, no,
like
that's wrong. 3 bookings a day.
3 bookings a day. See, this is why we don't really do mathematics around here. So three bookings a day. So you've got 15 bookings in the last 5 days. Is actually still quite impressive. It's quite impressive, regardless of what your portfolio is, to be said, to a certain extent. And I think, based on what we saw last year, where you were getting 15 bookings in 3 or 4 months, to get 15 bookings in 5 days, I think it's a very good sign that things are kind of shifting.
At least.
At
At
least
least a good sign, yeah.
it's a good sign. This the least that you want to see. I mean that something is changing, and for an SA operator, there's nothing that feels as good as seeing that ping of a booked confirmation
Fucking, oh.
of a booking, to
Amazing.
see that booking.com sign or that Airbnb sign just ping in to say confirmed booking. Oh,
It's
fantastic.
amazing.
Fantastic. And I think at this point now, with what we've seen, I think the boom is a fact, not a fiction.
So when?
So when it comes to when, I would say we're gonna feel it strongly mid-June.
You think we're gonna feel it? Is that when you think we're gonna feel it?
That's where I think we're gonna feel it strongly. I think the evidence is actually coming through now that we're gonna start seeing more bookings as of next week, but we're gonna feel it really strong in June.
Okay. I think it'll be May. I think even May, personally I think bookings are gonna start flying in April, back end of April, because I think they'll start flying in April depending on how well step 2 does.
Uh-huh.
So step 2 will be step 2 will be when you're allowed to outdoor hospitality,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
all that type of things. At most outdoor attractions, gyms, leisure, that type of things will be coming back. And I think depending on how well that goes, I think after the first week of that, we will, if that goes well, I think they'll start flying. And I think April, 100%, because I don't think by June we're literally out of lockdown. So if they start flying in through June, bear in mind, April to May, you've got that period where only SAs are operating.
Uh-huh.
So that's going to be big, hopefully. Hopefully.
I think we're in terms of the bookings actually coming in next week is when we're going to start seeing them happen. I say that, and yet all our properties now are fully occupied.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Except one. Except
book,
one. M&H, the new one's not occupied.
we've got a lead, man. What's wrong with you?
Mate, I'm not counting it. I'm not counting it.
So
No.
question now then is, fine, Muzzy and Harry, I'm convinced now there is something happening. I've seen enough evidence, or I believe in the evidence that you're showing. I've got a couple of properties right now. What do you think I should do? What would you say to them?
It depends. What are they currently doing rent to SA, or they?
Let's say I've got 3 properties right now. I'm doing rent to SA. How do I capitalize on this wave rather than just wait for it?
Ooh, I think optimizing your bookings.
Mhm.
fiddling with it. I actually don't know. To be honest, I don't know what it actually does, but seen it works by changing pictures around and doing stuff like that, updating the description every now and again, and trying to get your booking high up on your OTAs. I also think doing calls to all your guests to find out whether they're planning on coming back, and try and get in business that way is a great way to fill in your calendar.
That's a really good point. That's a
Yeah.
really good point. A follow up on the ones that you've already had. But yeah, completely agree with that. Also, to add on to that, if you've got a couple of properties, I would have a look at what other properties in your area are looking to do. If you're not using a price variant tool, such as Price Labs, that can actually do that for you, you want to be looking at what other properties are pricing their properties at. Something that is similar to yours, something that is in your area, and then keep up to date with those prices, because you might find yourself taking on a lot of bookings, which is nice to see, but they're not at the right prices.
Yeah.
So you might actually lose out there. So I would
Yes.
say that's another thing you want to have a look at.
Yeah, you definitely got to make sure that it's set up properly to have the best result with it.
Absolutely. Right. I think we've touched on quite a lot of it, and we don't want to make these podcasts really long, because we could actually go for another 2 hours. I know what Harry's like. He does talk for the world. So I think we'll come to a close on that one. Hopefully that's actually quite helpful for anyone who's looking to start out. And I would say, if you're looking to start out, right now is the time to actually take them on. And if you need any help in securing some rental essays, feel free to reach out, drop a comment at the bottom if you're watching a YouTube, and just contact us on I Know Nothing About Property links, or on Facebook, or any platform that we're actually on. I'll let Harry talk about those platforms. I'm not really much of a techie guy, but if you're watching this, or if you're listening in and you think this is really useful, please feel free just to contact us, put a review in. It will help quite a lot. And if you're on YouTube, please subscribe. Subscribe and hit the bell button so you get a notification whenever we're back on. So thank you very much, guys. Harry, do you want to say something?
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening or watching. You can follow us on Instagram. We've got a Facebook page as well. And obviously you can follow us on our personal accounts. Probably on mine, because mine's a bit better, but you can look that way.
Right, of course. Right, thanks guys. We will see you again next week.